What do you think of the group that you're taking over?
Great. Very, very fortunate, obviously, having, Preston and Rashawn coming back. Had a great, last season statistically. So we're going to be building on that quite a bit. We have 6 guys currently in our room right now. So we're developing a lot of those guys that are coming up here. I'm looking forward to here next Monday, starting with those guys and developing them, hopefully to keep those role players to be able to come in and give us some substitutions and be able to set the run on the edge and obviously pass rush on third down.
With Preston and Rashawn, what's the thing that impresses you the most about each of them from what you've been able to see? From
their size and ability. I mean, you talk about guys that can set an edge, physical, being able on third down to rush a passer, their hips, their mobility, their hand usage, all those terms that we use as coaches, they show up, on a down-to-down basis. So there's a lot of tools, if you're a carpenter and say you had a toolbox, there's a lot of tools that you have with these guys. And, I'm just looking to be a guy that can hopefully groom them a little bit more as my role is stepping in here to Green Bay.
Where do you build with Rashawn on last season, kind of a breakout year for him? What's the next step for him to go?
Yeah, really, it's more the mental part of it now. Obviously he's coming out there and showed physically what he can do. I think there's a lot in a young man's career when he's coming in this league of knowing not only offensive linemen, who he's going against, pass sets, how he can decipher protections. People are now going to start seeing him and chipping him, with tight ends and backs and, extra linemen. How can we utilize, his ability to get him those free one-on-ones? Those are something that we're going to be looking forward to, utilizing with him as a staff and then using his insight and saying, hey, I'm big on getting those guys involved in a game plan. Hey, what do you like? What are you doing? So that I'm looking forward to those conversations with him to utilize his techniques mentally to prepare him for this upcoming season.
Jason, what was your evaluation of Rashawn coming out? I think you might have been in Jacksonville.
I was. We really liked him. I mean, he came actually in for one of our 30-30 video or interviews and did a heck of a job. Great personality, very physical, like I said, big stature, guy that likes to, be able to make tackles for a loss and sacks. I mean, we all know everything that the guy, very, very emotional player, wants to be great. And those are all the traits that you want out of a player. So we were really impressed with him in Jacksonville. We were just drafting a little bit higher than 12th.
These guys are generally like big, tough linebacker, outside linebacker. Preston's 270. I mean, all that. Do you have a preference as far as that goes?
No, I think it has to do with the scheme that we run is obviously more based out of a 3-4. And I think it's on the player personnel, where you're looking at him and say, hey, look, can he do it at 260? Can he do it at 270? Can he do it at 250? So I don't think there's a huge preference on when it comes to weight and size. It has to do with ability. And I think that's our job, obviously, not only through the player, but our job as a coach to figure out what is that guy good at? Is he good at 265? And that's what he's better at going that way. Sometimes you have some X types of players where 235, 240 that maybe are better in coverage, or you're utilizing them as a spinner, or all those terms that we use as coaches where we try to set up those one-on-ones, whether it's some sort of a scheme, a game, whatever the heck it is. But when it comes to the weight and the size, every person's going to be different. We don't want cookie-cutting players, where everybody's the same look, the same size. We want variety. Variety in today's NFL is the key. You got to have versatility. You got to have variations. So, when it comes to that, I'm not looking for a specific look.
Jason, what's it like coming from a different program to kind of get assimilated with a new coordinator like Joe?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, I didn't have any connections with Joe Barry personally. I did work for a coordinator in Jacksonville that worked with Joe before, years ago. So I had a little bit of connection that way, but it's been great. The transition's been great. The staff is great. Coach LaFleur is awesome to work for. So it's the rest of the staff. I mean, RD was just in here. I mean, just a great man. J-Mo, I mean, just a good staff to work for. And the transition, they've made it as smooth as possible.
You talk about having 6 guys in your room.
Yeah.
What do you see in the other 4 behind Preston and Rashawn?
Yeah, you got some young guys in there. You have Garvin. You have a guy like Tipa who came in. You got Ladarius, Hamilton. So you got some guys. Ramsey's coming back off his injury, which had a little bit of a career going and some things that he was doing really well before that unfortunate injury. So yeah, you're going to be looking forward to working with those guys. Some tape you have on them from a game perspective. I've been watching a lot of practice tape with these guys, from when they were in there. So you can kind of get an idea of what, like I said earlier, about what he can do well, what he needs to work on. So yeah, I'm looking forward to working with those guys here in the next, few weeks.
How deep of a rotation do you ideally like to have?
I love 4 guys. 4 legit guys that you can have, sub them in, sub them out, whether it's situational, red zone, 2-minute, third down packages. I'm not opposed to having 2 on and then 2 off. If you get 4 guys and that's how we got to rotate them, then that's how we got to rotate them. Whether there's not a 1 and a 4 and a 3 and a 2 or whatever it is, yeah, you're going to trot those 2 guys that we know about on the first play of the game, but it doesn't mean that they're going to just be the primary players out there.
Do you feel like you have that right now?
Yeah, yes. You're always looking to improve. I don't think that we can sit here and say that we don't want to improve from Rashawn or Preston. You know what I mean? That's what you're doing. They should improve by themselves, and their techniques is working with us for another year. Every year you play in this league, you have to get better at something. Because if you're not, then you're becoming stale, and usually that's the time where your rear end's going to be out of this league.
How do you go about getting to know your guys?
Yeah.
You don't know any of them personally.
Yeah, it's you talk about Rashawn earlier. I did have a connection with Rashawn when I was in Jacksonville. When I first got here, I just texted him and told him, hey, look, gave him a phone call and said, this is who I am. But yeah, the first thing you're going to do is get up very similar to kind of what we're in right now and just tell them who I am. What do I expect? Here's what I expect from you. Here's what you should expect from me. And that's how you develop and start a relationship. From there it's developing that on a daily basis. Whether it's on the grass, whether it's in the meeting room, you got to constantly talk to these guys and working with them. And the bottom line is this: if you can make them better, or they believe that you're going to make them better, you're going to have a relationship with them. So, that's my first establishment when they first get in here next week.